Hey, well, good afternoon. On behalf of Waupaca Online staff, including Chris Johnson and Forrest Peters, and Ralph Schmall with AllNet Consulting, I'd like to welcome everyone here this afternoon and thank you for your interest. My name is Josh Werner from the city of Waupaca. Internet is something we all depend on, and one could argue is almost as important as the other utilities that run into your house, such as electricity and water. Many of us take for granted the internet access we may have. We use it every day for entertainment, to work and do business, education, healthcare, to pay our bills, and so much more. For many residents, particularly those in rural areas, finding a high-speed, unlimited internet can be a struggle, if not nearly impossible. Many rural residents deal with slow speeds, sluggish internet due to distance, or carefully watching data limits so there are no surprises on their bill. Some of Waupaca Online's top utilizers consume more than a half terabyte of data per month. Imagine paying the overage rate for that. Waupaca Online was started and continues to exist to be a part of the solution to provide internet access in Waupaca County, particularly where other providers may not have an interest to enter. As a fixed wireless provider, the cost to deploy is low and the time it takes is minimal. I'd like to thank the Brooks family for hosting this afternoon's event. Being here on Brooks Farm is a prime example of what Waupaca Online's expansion project is all about, serving rural Waupaca County, where DSL, cable, and fiber internet options are not available or very limited. Whether it's providing service to the family farm, a residence, or a rural business, we're here to be a part of the solution in beautiful Waupaca County. Just behind us over on Bunker Hill Road is an example of lack of internet access. The only wired internet access on Bunker Hill Road after Charter's line ends is dial-up internet, and it's the year 2017. Waupaca Online thanks customers like Mr. Brooks who allow use of silo and tower space to reach areas like this. Waupaca Online is all about neighbors helping neighbors. Through support and collaboration with Waupaca County government, time, and research, a number of areas in Waupaca County have been identified where better internet access is highly desired and where fixed wireless can excel. Waupaca Online's expansion project is here to be a part of the solution. We've heard many stories from residents and businesses in these areas and know what they currently face. I'd like to introduce and thank Governor Scott Walker for being here today and turn things over to our governor.
Thanks. Well, thanks for the introduction and thanks for your leadership on this and the partnership, which we'll talk about in a moment. First off, thank you though to the Brooks family and to the Brooks Farms for hosting us here today, and thanks for your presence and your growth in the state of Wisconsin. We particularly appreciate that. And thanks to Waupaca Online. It's interesting actually being here at a farm is perfect. I've used this example. We've been at several other stops today all across the state of Wisconsin. But I tell people that when I think about broadband access grants and how important that is, what comes to mind is my mother was born on a farm, and she liked to tell my kids, they didn't believe it for the first few years when they were younger, that she was born on a farm that didn't have indoor plumbing until she went off to high school. And I always think about that when I think about broadband, because for my great-grandparents, I think, and you guys might have had this experience thinking several generations back, my great-grandparents were some of the farmers like others across America who benefited from electricity coming onto the farm. And when you think about that several generations back, today it's a given. We recognize that we don't just grow food and milk cows and and have other products and produce just to feed ourselves. We feed the world literally here. I mean, in this state, agriculture is about an $88 billion impact on the state's economy, but we also know it's an important way of life for the farm families that are part of Wisconsin's rich fabric here. But it wasn't that many generations ago, and before electricity was fully out to our farms all across this country, that farming was really about sustainability. It was about taking care of your own family and maybe your neighbors and surrounding community, but it wasn't the kind of business it is today, because without full electrical grid and access there, it just didn't have the kind of efficiencies we have. That's a given. That transformed generations ago, making sure that every rural part of America had access to electricity, changed the way we farm today and the impact the United States farming community has on the world as a whole. Broadband, really, not to overstate it, is kind of like that you can do business anywhere in the world. But in this global economy, to do that, you've got to have access to high-speed internet connections, and that's what these broadband access grants are all about. We know that for our partners, for the local and regional telecommunications partners that we have, there's no way that just on return on investment does it warrant the kind of investments that it takes to cover many of our rural areas, whether it's in farmland, whether it's wooded land, a place like Waupaca County where it's a bit of both, with the rolling hills and with the woods and the farmland. It's just incredibly expensive to be able to put in place the kind of network that's needed to provide coverage to every part of this county. And so years ago, we started this Access Grant Program, but a couple years ago I started doing listening sessions all around the state, in all 72 counties. I was here in every other county, and I got to tell you, out of 72 counties, in all but one, the only one I didn't hear this about, not surprisingly, was Milwaukee County. It's the only county in the state that's fully incorporated, so they had full access throughout their 19 municipalities. But every other county, including Dane County, where Madison's at, particularly on the peripheral, on the outer towns and the edges of the county, broadband access was a huge issue. And so we went from the first year from $500,000 to $1.5 million. And the budget I hope to sign by the end of this summer, coming up within the month, we've included money, and the total amount will be, just in broadband access grants alone, another $12.5 million to be spent. So that's really good, because you're going to hear for a moment from two of my colleagues, and as Angie can tell you, the demand far exceeds the amount of money we have currently. That demand will be met with the new dollars that we have in the budget I'll be signing within the month, and that's really important, because not just for business, for quality of life, for industry, for agriculture, for education, for tourism. You might say, heck, what the heck's got to do with tourism? Somebody, with our 15,000 inland lakes and all our rivers and ponds, people love to sit in this state on a beautiful summer day and watch the sunset across the water. Maybe it was a summer shanty or something like that. But a lot of people, as the sun goes down, still want to watch their Netflix movie at the end of the night as they're relaxing out in the woods or somewhere out at the resort. And you can't do that if you don't have high-speed internet connections. It just doesn't work. So it affects everything out there. This money ties into the additional amount. In fact, in total, it's about $34.5 million between broadband access grants and the new money we're investing in the teach grants for our schools. Just as an aside, that in of itself is pretty cool. Not only investing more in the hardware to have computers and technology in our schools, we're adjusting it so that our schools can adapt it even on our buses. I told some kids this back before the school year finished. First they thought it was pretty cool till they thought about it. I said that means we're going to allow the schools to buy hotspots to put on buses, which they thought was cool until they realized, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to have to do my homework on the bus on the way home and on the way back in the morning. But that removes, the old excuse we used to have saying, the dog ate my homework. Now you got to do it on the bus. But that's just one more way. And our hope is not just on the bus, but through programs like this, when those students get back home, whether it's out somewhere in the woods or it's out in the farmhouse, that their home, not just their bus, will have access to high-speed internet connections, because that's really the future. Someone asked me earlier about Foxconn, and I said it's interesting, even though that's 13,000 jobs predominantly down in southeastern Wisconsin just for the jobs, it is thousands of other jobs in construction and supply chain and others that if a business here or anywhere else across the state has access to the internet, to high-speed internet connections, suppliers here, construction companies, others here can be a part of that ecosystem here in Waupaca County and in every other county across the state. That really ties together the need for broadband, whether it's for doing business with a big company and a big operation, or whether it's helping a small company start up. It's needed in every part of the state of Wisconsin. And so we're pleased to leverage the dollars. We understand that the partnership is the key for us, because if we were just giving state money away but there wasn't a partnership, I'm not so confident those dollars would be used as well and as efficiently as they are when we have a partnership, in this case with Waupaca Online. So we really appreciate that. To talk a little bit more about the state's role through the Public Service Commission, I'm pleased to invite Commissioner Mike Hipsch, who's one of our 3 commissioners on the Public Service Commission.
Thank you, Governor. Well, it is a pleasure to be here today, and first let me congratulate the Brooks family. It's a wonderful operation you have. I'm from La Crosse County, and so this is kind of like being back at home. It feels that way. What a terrific operation here, and it reminds me actually of one of the earlier grants that we talked about in the La Crosse County area of the town of Farmington, where we talked about the need for internet there and broadband and how it impacts really Wisconsin's most important industry, and that is agriculture. One of the farm communities in La Crosse County was talking about how they have a milking operation and how that operation is connected to the business where they purchased it in Europe, and how they monitor daily the content and the activity that's going on their farm. Well, that's, as you can imagine, pretty hard to do with dial-up. So it's this type of connection that is so essential to, unquestionably, I mean, we put it on our license plates. We're America's Dairyland. If you're not going to back your most important industry, you need to reassess things. And that's, I think, why when the commission was looking at this, as the governor said, I'm one of 3 commissioners on the Public Service Commission. The vision that the governor had for trying to fill out this map and provide broadband across the state is something that falls to the 3 commissioners. And the grants that come before us are very competitive. And I'm here not only to recognize but also congratulate those who were so instrumental in bringing these dollars and this grant to Waupaca. We have $1.5 million to give out every year, and this year we had applications of over $7.4 million. And so for Waupaca and Waupaca Online to be one of the recipients is obviously a testament to the effort that was put forth here, as well as the need. We recognize and understand the need that is in so many parts of the rural areas of our state. But as we look at it, as the governor talked about, it's obviously our economy, our agricultural economy, it's tourism. We go even well beyond that. It's education as well. And when you take a look at educational aspects of it, especially for our children who are sitting there with laptops or with computers in their classroom and have no problem. But when they get back home, it's next to impossible to be able to do their homework or use those computers at their home. In the same sense, we have important aspects of the healthcare industry that also require high-speed internet, broadband expansion, and obviously healthcare is essential to all of us throughout the state. And so as you take a look at all of those things that go into the application, and we understand as commissioners the need for them in every area, that really stood out in this application as well is just the need that as you said, is it Bunker Hill Road right over here? Yeah, you're on dial-up just right over the cornfield. That's a concern. And so it's one of the things that the governor has saw a vision for early on. He's added even more dollars into the budget that give us that opportunity to come in and lay that groundwork. You know, as we've talked about and the governor's talked about in the past, we lay the groundwork. We able to provide these grants so that we can get in and get the hardware, but then get out and allow for the local customers and the local businesses to really build and flourish the online and broadband access. So with that, it's again my pleasure to be here to recognize and congratulate all those who put their effort into this. Congratulations, Brooks, and it's just a terrific operation. I hope this is going to mean a even greater expansion for the rural community in this area. It is Broadband Day in Wisconsin. We've had that opportunity to go around the state, and it's my pleasure to introduce the head of the broadband office at the PSC, the broadband queen, as we like to call her, Angie Dickinson. Angie.
Well, yes, happy Broadband Day, Waupaca. Isn't this fantastic? We've got Governor Walker and Commissioner Hipsch with us today to celebrate this amazing accomplishment. Hats off to the team that put together this wonderful application. You know, I was telling a few folks here, I grew up spending time on my grandparents' farm, and if my grandfather were alive today, he'd be thrilled to see me talking about technology in front of this lovely John Deere tractor. I got to tell you that. You know, and speaking of my grandfather, I'll share with you, you know, when I was a kid and spending time on my grandparents' farm, curious, always asking questions about how things worked and what to do. Today you'd put your child in front of the internet and have them Google that. My grandfather handed me an encyclopedia, so I'm thinking about him today. You know, we are so fortunate in Wisconsin to have Governor Walker's leadership. Like he said, he not only went around the state and listened, he's a man of action, and we are so looking forward to the budget passing and being able to spread broadband access across the state and have more days like today celebrating the success of these programs. So I encourage communities that are interested in broadband expansion to get in touch with our office. Let us help connect you with folks like at Waupaca Online and turn rural broadband into a true success story. So thank you so much for letting us be here today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Walker, Commissioner, and Broadband Office, and thank you to Mr. Brooks for hosting today's event. I'd like to thank the state of Wisconsin for their continued support and efforts in broadband internet service here in Wisconsin. It is vital that everyone is able to have this access where they live, work, and play. This is the second time Waupaca Online has been granted a broadband expansion grant, and after completing our first grant project, we appreciate what this program offers to help ISPs across the state accomplish. Our past project and the project we are entering would not have been possible to the full extent without this support. Within the next several weeks, work will begin to expand our coverage area to areas such as Fremont, rural Marion, rural Manawa, town of Bear Creek, Little Wolf, and other locations in central and eastern Waupaca County. We anticipate finishing up work in 2019, and if all the providers who serve Waupaca County step up and make efforts to improve service and expand coverage areas, we'll no longer have to question if internet's available somewhere. It'll be everywhere. It'll make Waupaca County an even better destination for residents and businesses alike. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Governor.